All right, we left off and we have just lesson 12, the last lesson on here to go. I have no idea how long it'll take. I'm looking for my copy. I've got a completed copy of this. I was going to show it to you, but I can't find it. It's on the machine someplace, so I will find it. And if you want that, that's totally fine. Then we're going to go into chapter 2 and go through the project that they have in the book there. It's almost going to seem like a step back because it's much simpler done than what we have been doing here. The last 6 or 7 pages of that chapter start to go into Bootstrap with ASP.NET. So when we get done with that, and we'll see what time it is today, we're going to build a Bootstrap project as a class, and again, we'll see where we are time-wise, okay? And in an ideal world, we'll get done with everything I'd like to get done with today, and then tomorrow would be more or less a lab day. All right. So again, we have gone through now the first 11 chapters, and yesterday we basically did chapters 9, 10, and 11. We did the data modeling, we did the CRUD operations, and we did the validation. So what's left, as you can see, is the other part of CRUD, the UD part, so to speak, the update and the delete. And that's what this last section that's in here is about. All right. So as the author says, in order to be able to do this, we're going to need to write some more code to update the existing data. All right. So most of the chapter is on update, but since delete is fairly similar in nature, they kind of put that in there in the end as an afterthought for lack of something better. It says we'll change the index view so that we can have an edit option against each of those movies, which is what you'd like to do. All right. In other words, once you put the information in, you may want to change it. You may have misspelled something. You may have put a wrong year in for the release date or whatever. All right. So the author says in the below updated view, what he will be doing will be looping through the movie list to create a row for each movie in the table. All right, it says table class of Bootstrap is used for styling the table. Again, if you just put in class equal table, when you create, if you're using Bootstrap, when you create a table, you get a little bit of aesthetic nicety, so to speak. You get the lines between each table element. You get your table headers bolded, etc. All right. So the author says, as we discussed earlier, an @html.actionLink can be used to create a hyperlink element. The first parameter, and this you're going to need to know this because you're going to be doing this kind of stuff. So the first parameter in there is the string to be displayed. The second one is the action name. The third one is, again, if you want to pass any individual information. You'll note in here that we will do that because what you want to do when you want to edit a record is you want to bring up just that individual record as opposed to bringing up all records. Okay? Okay. So it says to the edit action method. So we are going to have, I guess, an edit action method. I'm trying to figure out where we are in here. And it looks like this, I'm looking just to be sure. All right, we will create an edit action method if we have not done so already, and then we will create a view that goes with it. This looks like it'll be the view. All right. The idea, the key thing is this. You have not seen that before. And what we're doing there is we're telling it that what we want is to just bring up an individual record. All right. So we'll do that, we'll run it, and as it says, that'll give all the edit things in here, but the idea is when you click one of those, well, maybe it doesn't show it, but it'll bring up just that individual record. All right. So I'm going to highlight all of this. I have to look. I don't remember from yesterday if we put an edit action in our movies controller or not. So we have an add, all right, but we don't have right now, we don't have a method for edit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the one for add that we had here originally, this one. Copy it. I'm going to make one for edit, but I'm going to make it even simpler than what this one is. Alright, so this will say edit. Alright, and it's just going to return. Now, is this totally correct? I don't know. Alright, it's going to return a view. Alright, that's it. We can, if we want to, I don't know if we're supposed to or not, we'll find out. Put in here, I think the first one would be an HTTP GET, but we'll find out. Okay, so I'm going to put that in there, then I'm going to right mouse click on here, choose Add View. You've seen this before now, you've done it before. I'm going to accept everything that's in there, click Add. That'll mean that I've got a new file in here called edit.cshtml. Alright, and going back then to the handout, I'm going to grab all that information that's in here. Alright, I'll replace everything that's in here with that. I have no errors, which is always a good sign. I think we've talked about this before, but I want to say it again anyway. A couple things, such as, alright, what this does, what this line in there does, is it makes the information available to this routine that basically is held inside of here. So a natural question was, do you have to put that in there? If you don't put a line like this in there, then what you're going to have to do is when you use this stuff that's in here, you would have to say micro imdb v2 dot models dot movie dot. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. We're just trying to make our lives a little bit easier. Typically, when you use models, app model like this, it's like using a using statement. All right, just so you've got less work that you have to do. That's all. All right. Yes.
It doesn't let you add the view.
It doesn't let you add the view.
Yeah, same with value negative outside the effect.
No, never heard of that before, but we'll look. But you did put stuff in, so it did come up originally, but it gave you that when you put that in.
Yeah, but it
All right, then let's see if we go over to your views, go over to movie folder, right mouse click on there, choose add view, and put it right there. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, I'm not sure if it's this or not. There's a problem with your syntax in that method right there. There's a curly brace problem with something else. No, go ahead and go up if you would. It could be bad. Put your mouse on it when it's there. What that should be next. I don't think I have anything in my index.cshtml. I could be wrong. I think everything that was, I don't think I put anything in there. So here is my index.cshtml. unless we were asked to do something, why don't you try to, I don't know if this will work or not, but just try to comment out everything you put into the index.cshtml and try it again and see if that works. Otherwise, we're going to have to Google the error. I've never seen an error with a negative. -1 isn't, well, as you know, it's a bad return, but there's something in there that it's not finding acceptable. So it's great because we're getting all sorts of errors I've never seen before. I actually kind of like that. So, not for you, but I like the fact that that's happening. All right, did anybody put the stuff in, run it, and then try to go over to your edit? Does the edit work? Does it come up and look like this? Can anybody answer? Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. Anybody? Ah. Well, if it's anything like Abby's, it'll be a while. So.
I don't know why.
We had a guy 2 years ago. I mean, his computer was 10 years old.
Yeah.
And he used to always say that, Mr. Scott, when I get my job, first thing I'm going to do is buy a new computer. So I asked him, and he said, yep, that's what I did. So, but if you look on here, this is what should happen. All right? And think about, when you look at the screenshot right here, well, it sure seems like it would make sense to click the edit button on the first movie, doesn't it? And change the year from 0. All right. Now, we had said, if you remember this, we had said, kind of an important point, that we put in our data annotations, which said that the movie release, if you remember, had to be between 1900 and 2020. Everybody remember that from yesterday? Well, we've already broken that. So why does the program still work? The answer is, if we actually were to try to do something with this record now, we would get an error. So it would definitely make sense to go in there and edit it and put in a date. I don't know when that was. All right, I suppose you could look it up online if you really wanted to. So it says here, the user will click the edit link to update the movie information. Upon clicking this link, you'll be shown another page where the movie information, basically for just that individual record. All right, as it says here, and I said it, but I wanted you to hear it. The Shawshank Redemption was added before the validation. It is really important if you're going to be doing a lot of work with databases. You would, in an ideal world, you would like to make sure that your schema is rock solid before you put any data in. Not that you have it done, you put in a bunch of records, oh, I got to make all these changes to my schema. Because what's going to happen is sooner or later you probably already have a record in the system, if that's the case, that's going to break the database. All right, so it says, now let us write the edit action link. Okay, action method rather. Okay, so there it is. Okay, so take out a little bit of stuff I had you put in, and here's the key. Somebody tell me again, I just mentioned it. What's in blue? Why do we need that, and what does that mean? What does that ID reference? The answer is an individual movie in this case. Because again, the idea is when you click on one of the links, you don't want every single movie to come up. That might not be bad if you've only got 3 like this, but what if you got 3 million? All right, so let's go in here and let's just grab everything for that public action result edit that's in here. And I'm going to replace what I have in my controller. So I'm just, this little bit that we put in, I'm going to replace it with what they said to put in. Now, let's look at all the code, please, that's in here. All right, so taking it from the top. Again, the idea, first of all, it's a get. It's bringing the stuff up for us. All right. I mentioned this yesterday. I'm saying it again now. By using, no pun intended, a using statement like this, this has now been wrapped inside of curly braces, so it is said that it is basically a unit of code. There are other ways of doing it, but this is the way it is typically done. You're going to see it in our textbook as well. All right. So this is creating basically a new movie database context. And notice what we're saying. We are using in here db.movies.find. That is a link statement. So I'm saying I want to find whatever ID I just clicked on. If we didn't provide any, all right, or even better than that, I guess, if we provided an ID, so we have 3 movies. If we put an ID in there of 75, it wouldn't make any sense. So if that happens, just return a 404 not found. All right? And otherwise, you'll return it. And again, hopefully in here they're going to show this now. Nope, not yet. All right. So the author says, right-click inside above the edit action method, select add view. You can try it now, Devin. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Okay, what did you have to change anything?
I skipped down and added stuff to the method, and then it let me make it.
Okay. In the generated edited view, I have copy-pasted the entire content from the add view and have made the following changes. All right. Change the action method in the begin HTML.begin form to edit. All right, right here, so that it'll call the edit post action method. Also update the heading in here, so instead of it saying add, it'll say edit. So the complete thing, the complete edit.cs HTML is shown right here. Probably would make more sense to grab this whole thing. Now, occasionally, just so you're aware of this, I just want to let people know this in advance because this has happened to me. For instance, when we're in chapters 7 through 13 and we're working on this sports store project, sometimes you'll paste something in and everything will turn red. You'll have squigglies underneath everything, or you'll have them like here. I don't know what the heck this is. I have no idea, so I just removed it. All right, and again, why did I remove that? Well, I guess it is looking for something, and maybe I took that something out. I don't know. It says does not contain a definition for begin form. All right. Well, let's see what was in there. Maybe I took off too much. All right. All I want there is edit. I don't want those strong tags. It could be that because the strong tags somehow during doing it, see that? But it still looks like it doesn't like something. I don't understand. I guess I do understand you'd want that to be bolded. All right, but for some reason it doesn't like that. But I believe if you remove all of this, it works okay. All right, there you go. So the disadvantage of that is it's not bolded any longer. We could even go in there and cheat. Didn't seem to like the strong tag. I don't know if it would take a I don't know if it would take a bold tag or not. Already looks like it doesn't like it. Invalid expression term. So it doesn't like the less than sign. Right. This, just like the ones that Microsoft provides, these tutorials are not foolproof. All right, there very well could be errors in them. Yes.
Earlier on, towards the beginning of this chapter, right? One little more, right there. That's what's going to be. You had it in the heading.
Ah, okay. Everybody hear that?
See, that's what I have.
That's okay. So I screwed up. Boy, there's a first. Yeah. This up at the beginning when we almost just started. This was the first bit of code that we had. And as he just mentioned, notice what it should have been. That should have gone into your index file. See that? So you should go back up So it's right near the top. It's the first bit of code that we put in here. You should highlight all of that. It's right near the top. Then go over to your index file. That's why I had said to you I had nothing in my index file. All right, you were right and I was wrong. So come back to here. This is my current index file. That's what's in there, which is basically nothing. So I'm going to remove what's there, replace it with that. Now looking quickly here, it's not giving me any error messages. All right. And that is what this is supposed to be doing too. Just basically showing me a list. I apologize for that. So hopefully, if you've done all that stuff, made the changes, all right, put this code that's right here, this was correct. This code, anytime you see an action result like this, or an HTTP GET, or an HTTP POST, etc., those are going in the controllers. You only have the one controller. So we were to add that edit method. Then you were to right mouse click and then add this code. All right. And again, the difference is, I don't know why that's strong, what the problem with it is, but there seems to be one. All right. So this is the type of action you're going to perform and edit. This is what you're going to perform it on, movie, and you want it now to be of type post. Why? Because what this is saying then is, since you're making the form of type post, you're saying when you click the submit button, we want, and if everything worked, in other words, if what you put in was all above ground, there wasn't any errors in what you put in, you didn't violate any of the data annotations that we put in, then it should post it. In other words, it should write it back out to the database. So they show an example. It says when you click a link, you should get a screen like what's shown below. So this assumes you had the 3 movies or however many you have, and you clicked edit on the movie that's The Godfather. You have 2 things in here, as you can see, that you can change. Looking at the picture, somebody please give me an answer here. What field's not in there? The what? No. What field? We've got a title field. We've got a year field. What field is not in there? You want to say it, Chris? I can tell. No. What field isn't in there? What field do we put in as the first field to every database table? What's our primary key? ID? That's not there. Why? Because once you put in an ID field, you should never be allowed to change it. All right? So that's not on there. That is basically, for lack of better words, that's not even a read-only field. It's not shown there. And it's not shown there, so you and I cannot screw it up. All right? So you might say, okay, fine. But what if you had a case where you actually did put in a wrong one? Then what would you do? You'd have to remove the record and put the record back in again. All right? Now, what are the ramifications of that? If you have something that depends on this table, that could potentially screw things up. Okay. It says, now we'll write the code for what needs to happen when you actually do submit the form. All right? Edit action post method, which is where you want to save the updated information. Just like the add post, we would be verifying whether the model is valid in edit post as well. But the difference lies in what we do after we validate. All right? How the object is managed in context. When you are adding, what are you doing? You're just throwing something new out there that wasn't there before. All right? But when you edit, as it says right here, you're changing the state of the object to being modified. All right, it says so that the entity frameworks knows this object already exists in the database and it needs to run an update query. Okay, we talked when we did the ad before that basically when you run this, since we're using the entity framework, for lack of something better, is doing an insert query for you when you're doing an ad. Now it has to be told, shown, to do an update query when you're making changes to an existing record. So we want to grab this code here. All the code that you see right here, this is going to be our post edit. So again, it will go inside of our movies controller. Now, I've been asked this question before, not by any of you, but I've been asked this question before. You know, if you've got a get like this in a post, do you have to put them one right after the other? I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that and keep stuff together. All right? I think it is actually legal that you could move it around, but I don't see the need for wanting to do something like that. All right? So again, very similar to what we did before. This line of code right here is saying what we want to do is we've clicked a submit button. All right? So we've got a movie that we've chosen to update. That movie to update, basically, for lack of better words, is like the ID. All right? And then we want to check to make sure those two fields that are in there, the title and the year, they meet all of the validation standards that we put in. In other words, there's something in there for each of them because they're both required. That's the first thing. Second thing, that the title has to be between 1 and 100 characters. Third, that the year the movie came out has to be between 1900 and 2020. All right. If all that is true, then this will be true. So what do? All right. You come in here and you run the code saying, yeah, we just modified a record, save the changes, and send them back to the index page. If it fails, please look at the code here. If this fails, if the if statement fails, you send them right back to that update or edit screen. And you do that because they probably made an error. And that will give them a chance to fix that. I believe that the values will still be in there. They haven't been posted back yet. All right, and finally, deleting the movie. As it says, deleting is similar to edit. It says we need to follow the steps below. We need both a delete get and a delete post. That should make sense. And if you're going to have a delete get and a delete post, sooner or later, you're going to need a delete view. All right, I don't want to sit and read this to you, but you can see what's going on in here. All right, this will follow a pattern of things that you're going to do a lot. It says before any of the above steps, we need to update the index view by adding a delete for each movie. In other words, right now, that's something we don't have an edit, we don't have a delete, it sounds like. So all right, we want these things to come up. And what they're saying is right now, one or neither of them will. All right, so it says we need to update the index view to add these. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to find my index.cs HTML file. All right, and we already have the edit. I can put it back in again, I don't guess it wouldn't hurt. Okay, now we've got the action link for both of them. When you run the application then, save it and run it, it should look like this. All right. So it says, let's see the code for each one of the above steps. Create a delete get action method, which is shown below. So what are we doing in here? This is, again, almost identical to what we did for the edit. All right. The key thing to take away is what you've got to realize is this: that if I come through here and I've got a port number, let's say it's 334456 colon, and I put in here, and after that I've got movies. All right, we've done this before, and that runs our index file. You all know that. All right. We can come in here now, or ideally, if we came in here and did add, we'd be able to add a new movie. All right. But where this changes is if we do this, or if we do those are both going to fail. Can somebody, not having great luck with this today, somebody look at these two lines of code and tell me why each of them will fail? What's missing? Yes.
The actual movie.
Yeah, the ID. What movie we want to be editing, or updating, whatever you want to say, or which one we want to delete. This would be really scary, wouldn't it? If that worked, because that would allow you to delete everything. And it's the same kind of thing that we talked about when we were working with SQL, where we said if you did an update query, and I gave you the example, something along the lines of, if I wanted everybody who works in accounting to get a 10% raise, and I said, update employees, set salary equal to salary times 1.1, if I did just that, everybody get a 10% raise. Chances are pretty good the other people who weren't supposed to get one wouldn't be complaining about it. All right? But you'd say where department name equals accounting. Same kind of thing when you're doing a delete. All right? So again, you would want to come in here and put the movie number here and here. The ID number, I guess. So again, we're going to come in, and here's our get. As I mentioned, it's almost the same as before. All right. Grab an ID. If it's null, meaning there was no movie passed in, you return not found. All right. Otherwise, you're going to return that movie. So I'm going to grab this. Go back once again into our movie controller. Okay, there's our get. I would imagine probably next they're going to show the post. Nope, first they're going to do the view. All right, right click inside. You know how to do this already. We're going to use the same stuff. All right, the author says I have just copy pasted from the edit view and made the following changes. We changed edit to delete here. We changed edit to delete here. All right, that's really the only change between these two. So I'm going to come in here, right mouse click on the word delete, choose add view, delete, keep it all the way it is, click add, remove what's in here, replace it with this. Again, with delete here and delete right there. Okay, upon doing that, I believe all that's left then says now when you click the delete link, you're going to get a screen like this below. That's what this does. This is what the get does. Please tell me if that doesn't make sense. The get gets us to this point. The put is what's going to say when you click the delete button, it will come back and it'll say, are you sure you want to delete this? And if you say yes, it will be gone. So the action is only taking place in the put routine, or not put, I'm sorry, post routine. The get routine is getting us there, so to speak, and the post is allowing us to make a change. So here it is. Again, it's going to check. With the model state valid, basically all it's doing is it's saying, did you pass in a valid ID? You know, if you got a valid movie there, it's going to come up by default. It should come up, I believe, and ask for sure if you want to remove it. If for some reason it doesn't, and I think it does anyway, but if for some reason it wouldn't, I think that's baked in or put into the code. But you would always want to make sure. Don't just assume that because a user has clicked on a movie that that's the one they want to remove. All right. So save. I believe that's everything, like they said, everything else that's in here. Okay. Upon successful completion, rather, it says we are showing the list of movies to the users. That's it. Now again, we're going to take a break in a minute, but when we come back, we're going to go over chapter 2 of the book. Chapter 2, much of the stuff that's in there we'll be able to kind of go through fairly quickly, just because of the fact that we did this. Oh, I know how to do this. Oh, I know what this is. So like I said, in a way it's a step back, all right? But I wanted us to have a project that we could do that ideally would work for everybody, and you'd see something that would be a little more true to life than this one that we're going to do for chapter 2. So it's 1:17, I don't know, 15 minutes. Let's just make it 1:35, all right? Come back from the break, from your break then, please.